fastest way from point A to point B is having somebody who's already gone from point A to point B. They have the experience, help you. Working with, a mentor or an advisor or a consultant is going to be your best friend, either just in life or in business. It is your best option. Pay that person and you will experience way more dividends than what you were going to achieve, most likely, but not guaranteed, but most likely on your own. And you're going to be able to do it in a more effective and timely manner. It's the only real shortcut that there is having somebody with experience in the area that you need help with or that you want to navigate, having them help you. It's the only real shortcut that there is in life.
Hello, Darren. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Hey, Elisha, how are you? It's very nice to meet you. I appreciate the invite to come on to your show. I'm doing pretty well.
Beautiful.
I hope you're doing as good as well.
Yeah, man, I'm doing quite fine. And thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Darren, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So firstly, Darren, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, Darren, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Darren, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Darren, just recently, I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately, I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did. And it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And not just mangoes now, David, I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day, and I was so, so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Darren that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show, because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing. Your philosophies, your insight, the impact your work is having, and how you are offering the solutions, Darren. These stuff are beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, my man, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Darren is doing. And not only me now, because I don't want to be selfish, and even with the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Darren. So thank you so very much for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, my man.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I appreciate you as well for the invite. And I appreciate those words. Those are great words.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, my man. So let's get started. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today, Darren, for some reasons. Mostly my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Darren, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge alone, but the application of it. And you see, my man, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness, ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Darren on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, my man, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Darren, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, my man, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Darren got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Darren, my man, over to you.
Are you able to hear me? Okay. I think it auto muted.
Uh,
I think it auto
oh, no
muted
worries.
while you were talking. Yeah. So I guess as far as like the personal side, just like a snippet. I don't know. I kind of came up through high school not really knowing what I wanted to do. I was big into art, and but I was kind of burnt out on that by the time I got out of high school. Doing so much art. The only other thing that I liked to do was playing baseball, but that didn't really pan out. So I kind of just did what most people would do, went to junior college, to try and figure it out. Got into junior college. I was 2 semesters in. I was taking my first business class, and the first day of that business class, I left out of it with like a subconscious kind of like, man, this is for me. This is it. Like, this is definitely what I'm interested in. So we're talking about over 20 years ago now. So I kind of just doubled down on that. I dropped out of junior college. I don't, if you start something, you should finish it. So I will say that for anybody that's listening, don't quit doing something. If you got to put it down for a second to kind of reposition your view on it, to get a better understanding, or get it, reposition your game plan. That's one thing, but don't just quit something. So I'll say that. But I dropped out, and I was like, I kind of want to just get straight to the money. So I went and I got 2 full-time jobs. So I was working 5:30 a.m. to probably like 1:30, 2 a.m. I was barely getting any sleep for the longest time, but I was just so focused on making money. But over that, where it kind of shifted from personal to business to professional journey was, I didn't really know it at the time, but what I was doing is I was collecting like real actionable data from the small business owners I was working for. I was constantly following them around, asking questions. Why do you do this? Why aren't you doing that? Just all those different things, and kind of learning how business worked. And then fast forward, to today, I've built a couple companies for other people, like business plans, and built the company structure out for them. And then, I've done one myself. I had one company previous to the two that I'm running right now. And that one was a good learning lesson, because I don't advise going into business with friends at all. Doesn't matter how good of friends you are. Doesn't matter what relationship or what, things you say you guys will or won't do. Don't go into business with friends. It's just not a good idea, because there's going to be arguments. There's going to be differences of opinion. There's going to be, times where you want to go one direction with things than they do, and vice versa. There's going to be times where you want to, make more money, and you might not be at the time to make more money, or maybe you are, but the amount of money that you want to make isn't like indicative of where they want to make, and they have a different viewpoint. There's a lot of different scenarios. So I would say, don't ruin a friendship. If you really care about that friendship, just don't go into business together. If you are going to go into business together and you're still going to make that leap, make sure that you definitely have lawyers in place, and you have all of your contracts and everything in place, so then that way it can't be argued at that point. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at now, as far as shifting from a little bit of personal to professional journey.
Amazing, my man. And that's a great advice. You see, because a lot of people could also testify to what you said. I've heard of stories where friends going into business, business partners, and the end result ain't good at all. Terrible, terrible stories like that. Thank you for sharing that. So, and that's a
Yeah.
great reminder, I tell you. So I've got some questions here, all right? So what is a
Sure.
legacy business? And should everyone aim to build a legacy business?
Hmm. So this is it's kind of a loaded question. I might get some hate, in the comments from people. I've been asked this question on another podcast recently. I'm not exactly an advocate for legacy businesses. I'm not against them. I like legacy businesses. It's just the way that the business landscape is today. Oftentimes, if I had to put, a metric on it, like if I had to quantify it, I'd say 7, 8 times out of 10 businesses, you really want to be trying to build that business up and look for an exit, in that 5 to 7 year range. Exit on the upswing. Legacy businesses are just kind of hard to build out. And the one of the backing reasons to that, why I say that, is if you look at what's called the silver tsunami, is what it's referred to here in the US. And that's the wave of all the baby boomers that have service based businesses for the most part, but a lot of other businesses to where they don't really have any succession plan in place because they have kids that have already started their own lives and off doing their own businesses, or they just don't want anything to do with the business, or perhaps their kids have taken a run at the business already and they're just not really cut out and they don't feel comfortable leaving it to the kids, or the kids just kind of want to be a part of the business but not run it or operate it. So it's kind of hard to to build out legacy businesses now. I mean, some of the legacy businesses that you could still look to build depending on the market that you're in. So you'll need to do your own market research and analysis. Or you could reach out to us and we can help you with that. Would be something like service-based businesses, like a plumbing company, electrical company, dry cleaner services, floor restoration, things like that, things like those, pressure washing businesses, as long as you have a plan right out of the gate to scale it to a certain point to where it makes sense for it to be a legacy business. To leave a business to where it's just you operating it to your kid, or a family member, isn't really a great thing to do. It's not like it's very attractive. Maybe you do have a kid that they do want to take over that single person business. That's great, but those are going to be very few and far between. So I would at least focus on building it out to where at least you have a small team of people and, some good operations. You have some assets, like maybe some trucks or, tools and equipment or whatever the case might be, to where it can actually be considered a legacy business. Because at that point, now, if it becomes a matter of maybe hard times fall after you're done and fully done out of the business and your kids took it over and they have an offer to be able to purchase the business, at least they have like a real structure to it. And it's not just the one person show, because with one person shows, you're the face of the business. And that's hard for somebody else to want to buy when you're the face of the business.
That's so true.
So, I mean, so yeah, just to kind of like wrap that all back up, legacy based businesses would be some of the ones that I mentioned. I'm a partial fan of legacy based businesses, but I am more partial to businesses that can be built up, scaled a bit, and then sold on the upswing, for a profit to somebody where they still have room to make profit as well after the acquisition. It's just the way that the landscape is right now as far as the United States goes. I don't know about any other countries or places in the world, which I hope to learn about some of that soon. I've got my eye on some different places to where I want to get some things going. But yeah, that's kind of how it lays in the US right now.
That's so true. I've heard of companies who, they built their companies, they scaled it, made some profit along the line, and they sold it. That's true.
Yeah. And I mean, you can do that and still keep a hand in that business. You could sell it and still keep like a piece of equity, or you could, if it's large enough and you've already established it, like a board, or if the new owners are going to establish a board, then you could get a seat on the board with a small piece of equity. There's different ways that you can arrange it. But yeah, legacy businesses are just kind of like a dying thing in the US.
Dying thing. I got that. So, we talked about not going into business with a friend. Let's say we've got someone listening right now who is at the edge of, making a family member a business partner. What would you suggest the person do, or what advice would you give such person?
Absolutely do not do it. There's no circumstance, scenario, alternate universe, or timeline where you should go into business with a family member. It's not an option, because if you really want to know, you can't fire a family member. You're going to stay attached and stuck to them. You guys can cold shoulder each other, not talk. You're going to see each other at either a funeral, a birthday, a wedding, a family function, a cookout, something. You're going to end up seeing each other. You're going to have to interact, and it's going to be toxic waters if it doesn't end amicably. And that's a situation to where even if you have lawyers involved and you have the paperwork in place and it's all correct and accurate before you get started into business, still don't do it, because those things are still going to happen. You can't fire a family member. A friend is a different story. A friend, worst case scenario, you do have to fire the friend, but that's a friend. It's not a family member, to where like you're literally attached to them by any means really necessary. So no, there's no way I would ever support that. I always advise clients that come to me like, hey, me and my cousin, and I have a cousin that we're extremely tight. We're almost identical twins. We would never go into business together, and we both understand that it doesn't make sense, because we have had disagreements. It hasn't had us fall out. Like, we'll never fall out, but it's still a thing that it will create a very toxic tension in your relationship. And that's something that it will fester and it will grow, and eventually it will implode it from within. So I would stay so far away from it. And even if you believe that I'm wrong, if you're listening and you think I'm wrong, if you've never done it, then you can't say that I'm wrong, because I've gone through the reason that I can speak so clearly and so confidently on these things is because I've navigated these waters. So if you've never navigated these waters, there's really no space to argue with somebody who has. Which kind of leads me to a good point. I got a quick question for you, if you wouldn't mind entertaining me with this. What is the quickest way? What's the fastest way from point A to point B?
What is the fastest way from point A to point B?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm going to get this, but what could I say? The fastest way to point A to point B. Maybe by running, and you run to point B, or in what instance? Can you explain that more?
Yeah. So most people would say like the same thing, like either run or
Yeah.
car or straight line
Mm.
is the fastest way to point A, from point A to point B. It's not really wrong, but the fastest way from point A to point B is having somebody who's already gone from point A to point B. They have the experience,
Mm.
help you.
Mm. Mm.
So my point to that is, working with, a mentor or an advisor or a consultant is going to be your best friend, either just in life or in business. It is your best option. Pay that person and you will experience way more dividends than what you were going to achieve, most likely, but not guaranteed, but most likely on your own. And you're going to be able to do it in a more effective and timely manner. It's the only real shortcut that there is having somebody with experience in the area that you need help with or that you want to navigate, having them help you. It's the only real shortcut that there is in life.
Mm. Wow, and that's so true. So that the mistakes that they had, you would learn from it and not fall into the same. That's a wise one.
Yeah, because don't get me wrong, like going through life or doing it on your own is a very good learning experience, but at the same time, if you're somebody who at that moment you don't really have the extra money or the extra time to really afford to make like too many mistakes or lose out in some way, shape, or form, you might as well allocate some of your funds to somebody who can make sure that the rest of your funds are used properly and actually pay you back the dividends that you're looking to, achieve. So that's going to be your only real cheat code in life, is to have a mentor. If you're just looking for, personal growth in a timely manner, in a more effective way, or in business, an advisor or a consultant, hiring an advisor or a consultant to come in and kind of analyze everything and do what you are looking to achieve, help you with what you're looking to achieve. It's the only way you're going to get there faster. It's the only real cheat code.
That's so true, and I got that. So to bring this to an end, my man, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those individuals who would like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, or maybe they even need your services or programs, how can that be possible?
Yeah. So, to kind of start with what you said, to leave like your audience, your listeners with something, at the top of this, you had made a statement about, as far as gaining knowledge or tools, but actually taking action. That's going to be the difference between somebody who goes to a higher level than somebody who just might get something started. Is you can read books, you can listen to podcasts, you can look at data charts, you can read different research papers. But if you're not doing something with the information that you're getting, if you're not actively pushing yourself to be very intentional on a daily or weekly or a monthly basis to make certain little milestone strives, even if it's just 0.5%, the age old adage here is just be 1% better every day. Even if it's just 0.5 or 0.25%, that's in the positive direction. And that's all you really need to achieve, is a positive forward motion, like stay consistent with it. And eventually you'll kind of gain momentum behind it, and it will start to compound. So don't just hear information or read and gain knowledge and information. Don't ask people questions to get knowledge to then waste it and not act on it. That is a very rude thing to do on that person's part who gave you that information. They really they gave you that information to want to see you succeed with it. So actually go do something with it. That's something that I'm very thoughtful of, to where I try and implement, something that I've learned, in the past week or month or whatever. I try and implement those things as frequently or as quickly as possible. And I always try and share that knowledge with my team. So that's one thing that I would like to, definitely impart and leave your audience with. Another thing that I kind of live by is just be a good person. There's enough terrible people in the world. So, I'm not saying you have to go out and be a superhero. I'm not saying that you have to go out and give every, homeless person, on a corner chain money or food or anything like that. But don't lend to someone's awful day, or don't lend to someone's degradation of their character or personality or mood. You should more so position your mindset to think like, when you see somebody walking down the street with their hands in their pockets and their head down, instead of you may yell out the window like, hey, get a job or whatever. I've seen people do that. You should be more so thinking like, geez, I wonder what they just went through. Like, why are they walking with their hands in their pockets and their head down? I wonder what kind of day they've had. Reposition to just have a quick thought of that, especially if you're about to interact with them. Like if you're about to walk past them in a little bit, that will do so much for you as far as your mood and your character building and your personality improvement. So I would definitely challenge everybody to kind of reposition the way they interact with people like that. But besides that, there's really nothing else. Have every conversation that you can have, because you never know how it's going to come out. That's another motto, is it's just a conversation. You're either A, going to come out of it with knowing that that person is somebody that you shouldn't interact with, which is positive for you moving forward, or B, that person might be somebody that you needed to meet and you could potentially do some business, or they could help you or you could help them. And then that could snowball into more positive things. So just have every conversation that you can possibly have. Entertain as many things as you could have. Don't stiff arm people. Don't be rude. You never know. You could be passing up a $1 million deal. You could be passing up a $50,000 deal, and you could be in a position where you really need that. So there's that. If your audience wants to follow us or myself, all of our socials are DNA Biz. So DNABIZ. That's all of our social medias. And then our website is dnabusinessco.com. That's dnabusinessco.com. And we're a full, I guess you could just say like an oversimplified way of describing us is we're like a full service business consultancy. So we write business plans. We do mentorships. I do mentorships. We'll do one-on-one consulting, like with business owners or business managers or executive teams. We'll do speaking engagements. We're going to be starting to get into that, in 2026. We'll do like company retreat, type speaking engagements. All of the different services to business consulting. So we have accounting and finance consultants. We have operations and sales consultants. We have soft skills training and operations consultants. Everything under the sun, and we'll do implementation for you and then train, your departments and everything like that. So that's where you can find us, and that's a little bit about us and what we can do. You can go take a look at our website that I just dropped, dnabusinessco.com, and take a look at our services. We also have an ROI calculator on the website, so where you can kind of plug in a few little pieces of information about your business. We don't retain the information. It's literally just for you to get a calculation of what would the ROI for you be for you. What would it be with contracting us to consult inside of your business?
Awesome, my man, and that's a beautiful one. So that's going to be the end of the show, Darren. Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing this wonderful stuff with us. It means a whole lot, my man. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Elisha. Thank you. Have a blessed rest of your day.